Hello and welcome back to Yet Another Canal Adventure. It is the morning after the night before. We've spent the night moored outside of the Crystal Palace public house in Berkhamsted. Now we wouldn't normally have moored up right outside a town centre pub. However, there was a space for us here and the pub was still closed due to COVID-19 restrictions. Which was a shame, but as I wasn't drinking, as I had to take some painkillers to combat the pain in my foot, it wasn't such a hardship. Anyway, we've moored off and I'm back at the tiller, and Paul has gone ahead to prepare the lock. We hadn't planned to cruise this section of the Grand Union Canal through Berkhamsted, but having missed the winding hole, we're pressing on until just past Lock 56 to where the next place to wind the boat is. To our right is Castle Wharf, where Peacock and Willets opened their first boatyard in 1799. More recently, it was the home of Bridgewater Boats, who designed and built their own hire fleet of narrowboats. The site was redeveloped about 10 years ago when these buildings were built. It is now a residential property worth over £1 million.
Just a very quick hello to our regular viewers, and especially if you are one of our subscribers. Keep your comments coming. If you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like to, then please do press the subscribe button. Go on, you know you want to.
I do like this dragon image on the side of Narrowboat Waytomo. Interestingly, this is an east-west narrowboat which is made in China. The lock isn't quite ready for us yet, so I'm going to pull alongside the lock landing until it is. I'm always amazed at how the canal acts as a wildlife corridor through our towns. Just watch for the heron at this lock.
Balancing on dodgy rods. This is the second year. Sorry? This is our second year.
Oh, brilliant.
Bank holiday would have been,
You like it?
this is our second year anniversary.
Yeah, because it must be.
Poor Aaron.
Yeah, well, buttered, absolutely. Richard loves that hat. Oh, we all do.
Have they waited? There has been a public house on the side of the boat since 1611, which was long before the canal passed through here. I think that the nautical theme must have been applied when the canal arrived to tempt in the waterway folk, like they needed tempting. On our right-hand side, where all these lovely waterside properties are, was once Raven's Wharf, which served the Cooper's factory. If you are into your farming history, or even Australian sheep farming history, Coopers were the world-famous producers of a dipping powder for sheep. Sheep scab was a major issue in the 1800s. It affected not only the health of the sheep, but also the value of their wool. Mr. William Cooper, a veterinarian surgeon and chemist, experimented with a mix of arsenic and sulphur in powder form, which could be added to cold water in which sheep could be fully immersed to provide effective treatment for and the prevention of scab. Cooper's sheep dipping powder was produced, you guessed it, right here beside the canal. The powder was produced by a process of boiling and drying the chemical mix using kilns until it could be ground up to produce a fine powder. The milling of the powder was done here using a horse-powered mill. The air would be full of particles and surfaces would be layered with the yellow sheep dip powder. Barges were used to deliver the raw materials, that's sulphur, arsenic and coal, and they would also take away the cases containing packets of the powdered dip, which were transported by canal to the London docks. During the Second World War, the factory produced an anti-louse powder that was used by our troops in the trenches to prevent louse infestations. Applied in powder form to their bodies and clothing, it was a successful treatment and prevented a recurrence of the louse problems experienced in the First World War. The active ingredient in the anti-louse powder was a substance called DDT. Cooper's factory site here in Berkhamsted was used for chemical production right up until 1997. Lock number 55, and the Rising Sun Public House, affectionately known as the Riser by locals. The Rising Sun is a Victorian canalside pub which was built in the 1880s.
Almost there. Yeah. Am I heading off? Yeah, I see the tree.
Below Lock 55 is yet another wharf. This one belonged to the Sills Timber Yard. Trees were cut and taken from the woodland surrounding Berkhamsted, sawn and prepared for use and then transported to local trades for coach building or beer kegs. The wood was even sold to the military in the form of spade handles and tent pegs. To our right hand side here, the River Bourbon, having been diverted down a mill race, joins the canal. This had been the site of Berkhamsted's Lower Mill, which was recorded in the Domesday Book back in 1086. The water-powered corn mills site is now occupied by the Old Mill House Hotel. A serious fire in the 1890s caused a great deal of damage to the machinery and structure of the mill, and by the early 1900s the River Bourbon had begun to dry up around the Lower Mill site. This lack of water, which was needed to drive the water wheel, meant that the mill was forced to close. The iron water wheel remained in situ for many years until it was eventually removed for wartime salvage in the 1940s. The hippopotamus is a large, mostly herbivorous, semi-aquatic mammal native to sub-Saharan Africa. I think it might be a pygmy hippo. This fine-looking specimen appears to be of the pygmy variety of hippo. The name hippopotamus comes from the ancient Greek for river horse. Pygmy hippos inhabit forests and swamps in West Africa and canals in Hertfordshire. I'm wondering if the owners are related to John Rocks or Gayla Peavy. This is Bridge 143, where the towpath crosses from the left-hand side to the right, and the canal appears to get really narrow. But thankfully, it's just an optical illusion. We are now approaching lock number 56 on the Grand Union Canal. The winding hole should be somewhere below the lock before the next bridge. The lock isn't quite ready for us yet, so I'm going to pull alongside the lock landing until it is.
It should just be down past this one. There should be a winding hole.
Couple again, Britain's work in their small boat.
Hang on, stop.
Couple in their small boat, the one from Britain's work.
Oh!
They were in this lot when I got to it.
Oh.
I asked him, he said, oh, I can't remember.
Can't?
I asked him,
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Okay, the reason we're not closing the gates behind us and put the full sky on ahead is because we're about to turn, and this should be the winding hole just up ahead.
Join us next time to see if we find the winding hole and if we manage to turn the boat. Bye! You can subscribe to our channel by clicking on the Yakka logo next to our little wooden narrowboat.